I was like age 45, 46, and the weight just kept coming on. I was exercising like a maniac. I swear I wasn't eating anything during the day. I would make it till dinner. I'd eat my dinner and I'd still be hungry. No matter how good I was being, the weight just kept coming on. And I remember thinking like, maybe this is age. And the worst part is I blame myself. I'm like, I'm not disciplined enough. I need more willpower. I need to work harder. And if I work harder, I can fix this. But it wasn't willpower and it wasn't discipline. It was like 5 little mistakes I was making. And when I fixed them, the weight came off. And today I want to share those 5 mistakes with you. If you've already tried working out like a fiend and the scale still didn't budge, and if recently you've wondered, is it just my age? This is just the body I have to deal with. Maybe my metabolism is slower than a snail. This is the episode for you. Today I'm going to share with you the 5 biggest mistakes that women over 40, 50, and 60 are making that's preventing you from taking off the weight and keeping it off permanently. My name is Chalene Johnson. Welcome to The Chalene Show. All of the reasons I'm going to be sharing with you today are scientifically proven. They're not based on my opinion, but they do align with what I've seen as someone who's been working in the health and fitness industry for more than 30 years. I mean, many of you, I've grown up with you. You may have done my fitness infomercials or done one of my weight loss programs. I can tell you that there is a major shift that happens for women as hormones begin to decline. And this is especially true for women who are suddenly dealing with an extra 10, 15, 25 pounds that they think is not going to come off because of their age. Let's start with the first mistake, which is guessing and not knowing. When it comes to weight loss, one thing that we've figured out, no matter how many different things you've heard, oh, you've got to go keto. No, you've got to do intermittent fasting. You've got to do this. You've got to do that. The bottom line, and I think we've really come to understand that this is true after seeing how many people have been incredibly successful with GLP-1s. It doesn't matter what type of diet they're eating. People who are consuming less than they're burning lose weight. That's just a basic fundamental truth of weight loss. So if you're consuming more than you're burning, you're not going to lose weight. And the reason why you might not be losing weight is because you assume that you're burning more than you are, or you're underestimating the calories that you're consuming. Now, not all calories are made equal. So it's really easy to feel like I'm barely eating anything and I'm still gaining weight. Scientifically, that's impossible. I know you don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear it either, but it's the truth. But we sometimes feel like we're not eating much because we're eating the wrong foods, and or we're eating in such a way that we're like grazing or eating really very highly dense calorie foods that aren't very satisfying. They aren't very filling. They don't keep us satiated for long periods of time. That's why it's so important that you start with protein. But the bottom line to fixing this is you got to know your numbers. We can't guess. So if you've been struggling with this, we've got to figure out how many calories are you burning, and keep in mind that things shift and change as we get older. Why? Number 1, sarcopenia. As you begin to lose muscle, which many women do as they age because they're not strength training, your body has a different body composition, meaning your body fat is going up, which often happens as estrogen declines, body fat increases, especially if you're not doing hormone replacement therapy. So now you've got a higher body fat. You're not lifting weights as often, which means you've got less muscle. And because of that, your metabolism is not as demanding. And if you don't factor in the fact that your metabolism may have slowed because of these reasons, then you're still eating the way you once did. And it's really easy to overconsume calories and gain weight. Now, it's not automatic that as we age, our metabolism slows. In fact, studies have shown that they slow very little. And in fact, you can increase your metabolic rate at any age if you add muscle. The way to fix this problem is by getting into a deficit. And the only way you can get into a deficit is by knowing your numbers. So you've got to figure out, like, how many calories are you burning today? How many calories are you then eating? And very few people can keep track of this in their heads. I can't keep track of like where I parked my car. So if you really want to know, if you really want to lose the weight, you got to get into a deficit. And in order to get into a deficit, you need to know your numbers, which means even if you don't want to, you're going to have to track your calories. You're going to have to know, what am I really eating? And there's so many ways to do this. You can use an app to track your calories. You could even use ChatGPT to track your calories. You could just take photos of everything you eat and then upload those photos at the end of the day to ChatGPT and ask it to calculate your numbers. But you need to include everything. That means the coffee with the creamer. That means the handful of nuts that you grab. That means the little piece of candy that you had in the afternoon. Like everything needs to go into it because just being over 200, 300 calories makes a big difference. And the smaller you are, the less active you are, the fewer calories you get to consume in order to get into a deficit. So you have to remember that as we age, as we have less muscle, as we're moving less and less active, that means our calories have to be adjusted accordingly or our activity. So you've got two options. You can either burn more or you can eat less, or as I prefer to do a little bit of both. Before we get too far into this episode, can I ask a favor of you? The smartest people I know subscribe to The Chalene Show. And then there's those people who just watch. I mean, I'm not saying that's creepy or anything, but like, why are we being stingy with our subscribe? It's free to subscribe. That's so weird to me. I would love to invite you to be a cool person today and make sure you're subscribed. And when you do, let me know that today is a day in the comments below this episode so I can thank you. All right, let's get to it. The next biggest mistake that women make is trying to cardio off the weight, just relying on cardio and burning of calories to lose the weight and keep it off. And here's why that's a problem. It's going to work. Trust me. If you just want to do cardio 3 times a day and maintain whatever it is you're eating right now, you'll probably lose weight, but it's not a long-term strategy because your metabolism adjusts as you begin to lose weight. So you start to lose weight and now you're still doing the same amount of cardio. So what's happening is your metabolism, as you're a smaller person, understand this, as you become a smaller person, your metabolic rate actually slows down because there's not as much to support. Does that make sense? So if you're losing weight, it doesn't take as much to maintain your body, stated simply. So if you're just relying on exercise, you would have to keep upping and upping and upping your level of activity to the point where you're exercising 4 or 5 hours a day just to be in maintenance mode. How do I know that? Because your girl has done it. Back in the day, and it was exhausting. Back in the day when I was a fitness professional, in order to maintain the look that they wanted me to have, I just didn't know enough about the science. All I knew was like, okay, everyone's doing cardio, and the more cardio I do, then I can lose weight. But what I was failing to take into consideration was that all of that weight loss from the cardio was also creating loss of muscle, which affected my overall metabolism. So as I was losing weight, I was dramatically slowing my metabolic rate, and I was creating a body composition that just, it wasn't helpful. Like I was skinny fat, even though I was still lifting weights. This is interesting. I was still lifting weights, but because I was doing so much cardio and because I was under eating, my body wasn't putting muscle on. So I would call this mistake relying solely on cardio as your calorie burn, as opposed to just becoming a more active person and focusing on strength. When you focus on strength, you're still going to get that calorie burn, but at the same time, you're not just preserving muscle, you're building muscle. A study on resistance training volume, on physical function, lean mass, and muscle size in healthy older adults from 2024 found that even low volume, meaning not even doing a ton of resistance training, like even just doing a little bit of resistance training, improved overall muscle function and metabolism. The bottom line is this: after age 40, strength training, ladies, it's not optional. Cardio kind of is optional. I mean, if you're burning calories and getting that cardio effect while you're doing your strength training, you can get a 2 for 1. Strength training is no longer optional. And when I say strength training, I'm not talking about yoga and Pilates, which are great. They're wonderful for balance, for coordination, for flexibility, for mobility. Highly recommend them. But when it comes to building muscle, we need to do resistance training with weights that are heavy enough, with a program that helps you to build muscle and change your body composition. The next biggest mistake that women make is failing to address their hormones. Hunger is a hormone. It is the reason why so many people get on a GLP-1 and immediately lose weight. And you hear everyone talking about no longer having food noise. I asked my community recently, I said, listen, I've been doing this for 30 years. And I can't say that I've ever heard, and like the thousands, tens of thousands of people that I've worked with who've struggled with weight all their life, I've never had a client say, I just think I'm overeating. In fact, they'll usually say the opposite. They'll say, I'm not eating anything. I just can't lose the weight. Those same clients, those same individuals, they'll go on a GLP-1 and they'll say, oh my gosh, now I realize I was eating all the time. And I realize I was thinking about food all the time. If there was food in my pantry, I didn't stop thinking about it until it was gone. If there were cookies on the counter, I couldn't walk past them without eating them. Like I was always thinking about my next meal, food, like food was always on my mind. And then when I got on a GLP-1, which changes your hunger hormones, I stopped thinking about food all the time. I stopped feeling so hungry. I could identify when I started feeling full and satisfied. Now, I know what you're saying. Okay, well, then maybe I should get on a GLP-1. Maybe you should. I'm not against them. But I do want you to know this. You can create a GLP-1 response in your body naturally. And there are supplements and foods that you can eat. You can change your habits and you can change your hormones, not just by using a GLP-1. And again, I'm not against them, but I also would love to have people see if they could figure this out naturally first with supplements like vitamin D, omega-3s, alpha lipoic acid, and berberine. Berberine is a remarkable way to control your blood sugar and to control those cravings you have for food. The food noise starts to quiet down when we're able to control our insulin levels. Estrogen also has a major impact on our hunger hormones, ghrelin in particular. So again, if you're one of those women who's been kind of like sitting on the fence, like, oh, maybe you haven't had any symptoms related to hormone decline, or you think you haven't, but yet you've put on the extra weight, more hungry all the time, that's because estrogen's in decline, and estrogen helps to regulate all of our hunger hormones. So you may find that by doing a hormone replacement supplement plan, which I highly recommend any woman after age 40 have an informed conversation with a clinician who specifically understands this stuff. And very few of them do, but don't give up. Look for a clinician who can help you with this. And if you need a recommendation, drop a comment below and myself or someone on my team will see if we can't give you a recommendation in your state, because you want to work with a clinician who's been specialized, who's got training specifically in the care of women's hormones as they decline as we enter menopause and beyond. As I mentioned, hunger is a hormone. And yes, GLP-1s impact our hunger hormones. And yes, there are people who your natural GLP-1 response may be in decline. It may be something you struggle with all your life. Or maybe you're struggling with a decline in your estrogen, progesterone, testosterone. That's going to impact your energy, your mood, the way you sleep, the way you put on muscle, like all of these things. We are a walking bundle of hormones. And you need a clinician who actually understands that. And unfortunately, it has been my experience that most doctors don't. And it's not their fault. We can't expect them to be experts in everything. I think it's less than like 4% of medical doctors receive any type of specialized training regarding hormones and women's care as our hormones begin to decline. So if you're looking for a clinician, the company that I highly recommend who's sponsoring this episode of The Chalene Show is MIDI Health. I went to them because I was using them and I'm like, this is a solution that the women who watch my videos, they need this. I hear it all the time in my comments. Can you help me find somebody in my state? And so I went to find a solution, and MIDI Health is next level. I'm going to put a QR code right above Barbie, right there. And the website, you can find it by going to chalene.com/MIDI. There, you can sign up for an Age Well visit, or you can just sign up to have a visit with one of their clinicians. It won't be like what you're used to, where you get like 2 minutes with a doctor and they're, not even listening to you. At MIDI, it's a company created by women for women. Your clinician's actually going to listen to you. Your clinician actually has specialized training and is up to date on the latest with regard to hormone replacement therapy and GLP-1s. So you can have an informed conversation. You can understand, like, am I too old? Am I too young? Is this right for me? What are my risks? They'll actually answer your questions. And I'm really, really proud to have them as a show sponsor. Again, just take a screenshot of the QR code, and then you can open up your phone and tap on that QR code and go directly to chalene.com/MIDI to have your own consultation with a MIDI health professional. But our hormones do shift. And if you're not focused on your hormones, then you have no choice but to rely on your discipline. And discipline will only take us so far. Then it makes us feel like we're being punished. It makes us feel like we're broken. It makes us feel like we'll just never escape this. But you can change your hunger hormones. You can get to a place where you're not thinking about food all the time, where you're not actually hungry, where you're not forcing yourself to push the plate away, but you're legitimately full. And it is possible to do this without a GLP-1. And I hope you know that when I say that, it's not a judgment towards anyone who's struggled all their life with weight and just like, I've heard this a million times, it's not worked for me. Maybe a GLP-1 is the right solution for you. But why not try natural alternatives first? Another way that you can adjust your hunger hormones is by getting better sleep and reducing your stress. I know it's easier said than done, but it's when you combine all of these things and becoming more active. Becoming more active isn't just about burning more calories. Becoming a more active person, standing more, walking more, sitting less will adjust your hunger hormones. The more inactive we are, the more our hunger hormones rage. So just by focusing on cardio, just by focusing on discipline and not addressing our hormones puts you at the mercy of having to go on a medication for the rest of your life. And of course, yes, they're effective, but big pharma, frankly, wants you to be dependent for the rest of your life on these things. They're going to convince you that as soon as you go on a GLP-1, it's forever. If you go off, all of your hunger is going to come back. They want you to believe that. You know why? Because our beliefs dictate our results. Did you know that in their own studies, Big Pharma's own studies regarding GLP-1s, a significant number of participants who were taking the placebo actually lost weight and quit the trials because they were having so many symptoms from the drug that they were taking, except that they weren't taking the drug? Now, what that should tell you, if you're reading between the lines, is what people tell us is what we believe is going to happen. And it creates a physiological response in our body. Those individuals, they thought they were losing weight because they thought that they were going to. Does that make sense? So if you believe, if you look at the science that I'm going to post below in this episode, science that proves you can change your hunger hormones and you can permanently change your hunger hormones by doing these things, by supplementing with the right foods, by supplementing with, like I said, omegas, berberine, vitamin D, and ashwagandha. There's a few others that I'll list below. They will. I've changed my hunger hormones. Like I used to think about food all the time, especially when I first hit perimenopause. I was like, what is this? But it is possible. But you have to believe it or it won't happen. And that's a big one. It's kind of like, this is a bonus point for you, is whatever you believe is going to happen is probably going to happen. So if you believe I'm only going to lose weight if fill in the blank, it's not likely that these strategies are going to work for you. But if you believe the science, and if you believe because it's possible for other people, it's possible for you too. But it's not about shifting the way you think about weight as a punishment or something you have to do short term. And that's the next biggest mistake that women our age make. We think of weight loss as something, it's like punishment. I'm so disappointed in myself. I'm disgusted. I'm looking in the mirror and it puts you in a bad mood when you get dressed. You want to cry. You don't feel like putting yourself out there. You feel like you're playing small and you blame yourself. And we believe, because we've been conditioned by society, grew up in the 80s and the 90s and the 2000s, where it's like, okay, you're going on a diet. Like that diet starts Monday, right? And all the time I will hear from people who will say, I need to do this, but I'm going to wait until I'm back from vacation. Or I need to do this, but I'm going to wait until fill in the blank. When they can be like, where everything aligns so they can kind of punish themselves. That is a mistake. We are too grown to fall into those same old traps. Girlfriend, I need to tell you, if you want this to work, you need to change who you are. You need to be somebody who thinks in terms of longevity, who thinks in terms of energy, who thinks like a fit, healthy, trim person. Would a fit, healthy, trim person go through Taco Bell? Probably not. Would a fit, healthy, trim person who's focused on living a long, healthy, energetic life, are they going to buy the crappy snacks and then have to rely on discipline to stay away from them in their cupboards. Like, no, they don't. I know, because my friends are fit, healthy, and trim, and that helps. Like surrounding yourself with people that, in watching the way that they live, watching the way that they eat, watching the way that they order food, watching the way that they treat themselves when they feel good and healthy and energetic, watching the way that they do things, I can tell you they don't do the all or nothing. They're not eating fast food. They're not eating unhealthy foods and bringing them into their home and just relying on willpower not to eat those things. And if you're the head of your household and you're shopping for everybody else, why would you bring poison in for everybody else in the house? And foods that are not going to help you to be healthier or more energetic. So it's shifting the way that you think and not thinking this as a punishment or something I have to do short term and I'm going to start it on Monday. No, like today, you decide I'm a different person and this is how I'm going to live my life. I'm active. I start every meal with protein. I'm the type of person who, when I'm putting food in my mouth, I want to enjoy it. And I want to make sure it gives me more energy and it's going to help me to build muscle. It's not going to create inflammation. It's not loaded with poisons and toxins and preservatives and ingredients that are fake and phony. Like, become a person who understands these things and wants to do them. Now, that's not to say that you can't enjoy whatever, a treat. I don't even like calling it a treat. I had French fries last night, but I had a couple. That's the difference, right? I'll have chips, but I'll have a couple and they don't taste as good to me as they once did. Like, I crave healthy food. And that's a process. It doesn't happen overnight. But it's learning, like, how can I make healthy swaps? How can I start thinking about foods that I'm looking forward to? Because it shouldn't be punishment. Like, foods that are voluminous, but maybe lower in calorie and higher in protein. It's focusing on the things that help you to achieve the body, the energy, and the longevity that you deserve. I want you to shift from thinking I'm on a journey to lose weight and start thinking like I'm a woman who's becoming fit and healthy. And so I make decisions, I buy food, I am active in a way that allows me to become fit and healthy. Not I'm trying to lose weight, but like, this is who I'm becoming. This is who I am. I exercise every day because it's who I am. It makes me happy. It makes me feel calm and balanced. It's like there's certain things you do every day because it's like who you are. And I want you to know it's possible for you to do those very same things as it relates to being a fit, healthy, energetic woman over 40. And the last mistake that I want to address is, I think it's a remnant from the 90s and the 2000s where we believe that there's some magical diet, there's some perfect way to eat, or there's some perfect workout program that's just going to solve all of our problems. There isn't. And there's no perfect injection that's going to solve all of our problems either. Because just using an injection, it doesn't change muscle composition. This is a whole person approach. It's caring enough about your future and the people who love you to make these subtle changes. It is it's not just one thing. It's understanding, I have to make better decisions. There is no one perfect diet. There is no one perfect exercise, but we need muscle. And if we want to lose weight, we've got to create a deficit. If that's something you need help with, I will put a link below for my program. It's called Phase It. Phase It is a program designed specifically for women over 40. It's strength training, and it's a program that can help you get into a deficit. There's no magic bullets. There's no magic diet. You can eat exactly as you want to and figure out what works best for you, whether you're vegetarian or you want to do keto or intermittent fasting. It doesn't matter. As long as we get into a deficit and you're building muscle at the same time, girl, you're going to look and feel amazing. Decide that health is who you are. It's not something you do because you've messed up. It's not something you do short term to right the ship and then you go back to, no, you need to change who you are. Because if you're not happy with where you are, we have to change the way you think, the way you behave, the way you act, the way you shop, the things that you crave. And I hope that doesn't sound overwhelming. It probably does, but I don't want it to, because I want you to know, like, you can literally make these shifts in the smallest of ways, and you don't have to do it overnight. But if you can just start to think about, like, okay, so if I was fit and healthy and strong and powerful, and I had lots of energy, what decision would I make right now about my next meal? What activity would I be doing? Would I be doing what I'm doing in this moment? Or what would that look like if I was that woman? Because that's who you are becoming. And lastly, you need to make consistency, not perfection, the goal. We don't beat ourselves up and go, oh, I better throw in the towel. I had a bad day or I had one bad meal, so now the whole thing is over. No, the most fit, healthy, active person you know has a bad meal or a meal that they're not necessarily proud of. It wasn't like their best meal. It wasn't the best decision. They don't throw in the towel. They just move on. Just move on. Move on and make a better decision at your next meal. If you were very inactive today, so what? Get more active tomorrow. I believe in you. I need you to believe in you.